What up, Salvador Braven here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. On this channel, we talk a lot about crowdfunding, and specifically, one of the ways in which you can use crowdfunding is actually through subscription-based crowdfunding, which is exactly what Patreon is. And that's what I want to get into in today's YouTube video, are some of the high-level tips, some of the kind of rapid-fire things which you should be doing when it comes to a Patreon campaign if you want to earn more money, if you want to actually quit your 9-to-5 job, if you want to turn your passion into profit at the end of the day and make meaning in this world. We're talking about that in today's YouTube video. And by the way, if you do like my content that I put out there, please give me a thumbs up so that I know that. It's also great for the YouTube algorithm, so I really appreciate that like, if you will. And thank you so much. And let's get right now into this video and go into some of the tips, the things that you should know when it comes to a Patreon campaign. Okay, so these are just basically things to know when it comes to doing a Patreon campaign. These are kind of going to be in a rapid fire session, and I hope that you find it useful and helpful. I've been in the crowdfunding industry since 2012. I got a bunch of different books out there. I've written actually 10 books on different subjects, 4 of which are on crowdfunding. So I hope that you enjoy today's video, and let's get into it right now. Tip number 1 is to understand that most Patreon creators that are making big sums, and I would say anything above like $1,000 a month, it's typically when you already have a little bit of an audience. So if you don't have an audience yet, typically your Patreon is going to be growing in the same kind of pace, if you will, with your actual audience. So as you're growing your actual audience, your Patreon is going to grow. So don't get frustrated if you just go there and you launch a Patreon and like you're not getting any kind of backers. Typically, you need to actually grow your audience. There isn't as much of a discovery, I'd say, feature when it comes to Patreon as on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and other crowdfunding websites that are out there. So just keep that in mind. If you already do have an audience, this is like the perfect opportunity to monetize your audience, specifically to monetize your passion. So that's tip number 1, is being aware of that factor. Tip number 2 is creating value for your actual community when it comes to Patreon, and using a couple of different bite-sized functionalities in order to do that. So for example, welcoming new members, having a custom message for certain members based on the reward tier in which they pledge to or subscribe to, having a video when it comes to your campaign page that people come there and they can just watch that video and they get a sense of what you're trying to do, as well as video is such a powerful medium. So a lot of ways in which you can customize this to build up value when it comes to your Patreon campaign. In addition, exclusivity. When you launch your campaign, for example, you could do a 30-day deal or a particular deal where this is, for a decent price off when it comes to your Patreon campaign. And thinking about all the different items you're going to list and encouraging people to go to the higher reward tiers or wanting to subscribe to those in order to help you out even more. So think about, how do I show value with my actual Patreon campaign? That's my tip number 2 for you. Tip number 3 is to create a funnel, to create a marketing funnel where you are consistently delivering traffic to your Patreon campaign. Now, this could be through mentions frequently. For example, if you're doing a podcast, you're doing a YouTube channel, or so you're doing blog articles mentioning your Patreon. But it could also be in other areas. For example, your PS when it comes to doing an email newsletter, right? If you're doing on your social media handles, what are ways you can even tease and announce? So for example, you're doing a podcast, you're like, oh my gosh, we released such an incredibly insane episode on this Patreon campaign, which we're actually doing, but it's only private to those members who have subscribed. But you guys are definitely going to want to check this out. How can you always be teasing the Patreon campaign? How can you be building funnels in terms of people are being consistently sent to this Patreon campaign through your different content mediums, through your marketing mediums, through your social media, through your email newsletter, etc. And it becomes something where there's a large degree of awareness within your community that everyone knows you have a Patreon. They know the different values of it and different benefits, but also they kind of get curious based on how you tease the content. And over time, you're building this massive, massive, massive war chest of content, and it's all pointing to one place. My next tip for you is to think about different ways in which you can have different goals. So for example, once you hit a certain goal, if people are just regularly supporting you, they're gonna kind of tune out, right? They're gonna get less interested in actually being a part of your community. So making sure you have different goals which you adjust over time, whether it's related to funding, whether it's related to the number of patrons that you have. Thinking about your goals. How do you get people excited about moving you and also moving this community towards that particular goal? How can you talk about that? How can you promote that? For anyone out there, if you've ever gone to a sporting event, you've already gone to a stadium, you've gone to a baseball game or something like that, people love being a part of teams. They love working towards goals when they're a part of that team as well, even if they're just a spectator, right? It's a spectator sport. How can you make this a fun spectator sport? People want to help you get to those goals in that case. And that way you can keep them as a part of your community. My next tip for you is to really be aware of this fact, which is the fact that typically when you're doing a Patreon campaign, it's difficult to get people to stay within your community, right? So there are different ways of getting people in the community, but also getting them to stay in the community is kind of a problem in and of its own right. And that's really with any different type of product that's out there. How do you get people to continue to want to do business with you? So there's a whole video I have out there on this. And actually I'm releasing a free course, which I'm gonna link up down below, that goes through this in terms of how to get patrons, how to keep people excited and continue to have their attention, to continue to build momentum with your campaign. Also some of the stuff that I've learned that I haven't mentioned anywhere else when it comes to tactics and techniques, ways to promote your campaign, to grow more. So you can actually, at one point in time, maybe even have this be your primary source of income. I got a lot of great stuff in this free course, which I'm linking up down below. But that would be my next tip, is have a plan so that it's not just people are joining your community, but you also have a way to continue to have them engaged. New things which you're announcing, or it could be a way in which people always want to get access to this cutting edge information which you're sharing, whether that's teaching new topics, right? Or even providing opportunities, for example, job opportunities to your patrons, or you're trying to hire for a graphic artist or something like that. Keep it really interesting. Make it so that people see value in staying around and also want access to that information, which you maybe share there. Great way to keep people involved. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description. My next tip is to always be changing up your rewards and what your offering is. Now, this is actually based in science. There are a lot of great articles out there. There's a lot of great research which has been done on Patreon. And actually, a lot of people think like, I'm just gonna keep the same reward offering and keep the same offering forever, right? But actually, when creators are willing to change up the rewards and come up with new things, new tiers, new things that they're offering, it gets people excited. It makes them realize that, oh, maybe I should join for this reason. Or if someone canceled later, they might decide to rejoin at another point in time. So you can actually be changing up all the time what you're offering. And again, view this as kind of like a dynamic moving campaign. It's not something you just launch and it's like there forever. You can continue to freshen it up, continue to offer new things, continue to get people excited about what it is that you're doing and wanting to be a part of your community. And maybe your previous reward tiers or the things that you were offering wasn't great for them, but your new ones are killer. The next tip is actually to involve e-commerce. Now, this is a little bit of a sticky tip because I'd say that e-commerce is definitely something that goes beyond a lot of people's skill set, right? But thankfully with Patreon, if you are willing to subscribe to some of the upper tiers, which are available on the platform, which have a higher percentage fee, you can then start to sell products to your audience. So you can actually have merchandise at particular tiers, things that people can actually own, right? So you could, this is basically white labeling. If you're white labeling, where they could have like a coffee mug or sweatshirt or different things that you have, different merch and different items. So this is a way to combine different ways of providing value to your audience. It's not just about they're getting access to information or getting access to you or getting access to ability to provide thoughts and insights and being part of a community, but you can do e-commerce and different other ways of selling things through your Patreon campaign. So this becomes a huge, thriving community with many different ways of actually monetizing it. And as you know, once you already got a customer, it's so much easier to get that person to transact with you again. All right, so the last thing that I'm going to mention is a little bit more of a big picture thinking. And it really it costs nothing to dream big. So why not dream big, right? And what I mean by this is that Patreon is an incredible way for you as a creative type to actually monetize your passion, right? And talk a lot about this obviously on the channel and also the free course, which I have down below. But in addition, it's a gateway, it's a doorway into a different way of thinking, which is if you're having recurring income coming in a regular basis, that's really the foundation for a business. So why not consider this being the start of a whole new business for you where you can involve other people in helping you run your Patreon community. If you leave it all up to yourself, yes, you do have much higher profits. However, when you involve other people, whether that's freelancers, people helping you out, someday having employees, this is a great way for you to build a robust system within a scalable business where no longer are you having to manage this whole community. You can do other stuff. You can promote even more. You can do more content. You can get back to doing what you love if you want to produce just more content for free, right? So the more you think about systematizing this, and I talk about this in the free course, the more you systematize this, the easier it's going to be for you in the long run. And in addition, it starts to actually be on autopilot, right? So you're having this recurring income and you're fulfilling all those different obligations that go into creating that income as well as promoting it. So there's this really great system which actually becomes the backbone for a growing business as an influencer, as a creator, as someone who's trying to monetize their work in different interesting ways. You're kind of like the 2.0 worker, if you will, who can work from anywhere, right? This is something where when you invest in that system, learning it, understanding how to build the system, how to have team members, how to have roles and responsibilities, all of that could really pay massive dividends. And this could not just be something where like, hey, I quit my 9-to-5 job and like this is my life now and I'm able to do what I love. What if this is actually the start of a whole new business that completely transformed your life into the future? And it wasn't just a career change, but it was also something that completely upgraded your entire life. So this is what I talk about as well on my podcast. You can check it out, Crowdfunding Demystified. So many people that have done interviews with me, literally, we had a job before that, then they hit it big with a crowdfunding campaign, and all of a sudden, they're having to learn all the different stuff when it comes to business. So the more that you're willing to embrace that, actually think about more of building a system, the easier it's going to be for you in the long run. And that's my final tip for you. So I hope you enjoyed today's YouTube video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, come subscribe to this channel for more content just like this. My name is Salvador Brigman. And if you did enjoy this video, leave a comment down below, share it with a friend, go check out some of my other videos I got out there on Patreon. I got so much great stuff for you, literally just waiting at your fingertips to digest all of this information into your head, to absorb this and to really upgrade everything that you're doing as a creator. So that way you can get back to doing what you love. And also you have this regular, steady backbone with your business, growing prosperously into the future, much brighter, much more rich than anything else that you've done before. And hopefully you get to then impact lots of people. And honestly, what I say is like, your legacy is my legacy. So if I'm willing to have students that go out there and impact the world, that's great for me because that becomes my legacy as well. But thank you so much, and I will see you next time.